It's been an arduous campaign, but I like campaigning, so I think it's really an exercise in democracy. So we've had 4 debates. I've attended more than that, but Senator Brady, my principal opponent, has attended 4. We had one last night and one on Sunday night as well. So I think there's some sharp differences in the issues. I think as a preamble, I assumed office, took the oath of office on the 29th of January, and I think everyone knows the circumstances. Previous governor was impeached and removed from office. His predecessor was in jail. And I think the first order of business was to restore integrity to the governor's office and civility, and I think I've done that. I know how to work with people of both parties. We passed a landmark law involving investment in our infrastructure. It's called the Job Recovery Act. It really is important, if we're going to have good jobs, that we invest in roads and bridges and make sure we have good rail systems and invest in our airports, take care of our water. Today I'm going to be, I did a little bit yesterday, but tomorrow I'll be across Illinois. We're investing in school buildings, school construction. So you have to have a governor who can do hard things that involve raising funds to pay bonds, and I was able to get that done with 3/5 vote in the General Assembly. My predecessors were not successful at that, and I think that's important to always look at accomplishments. So I got that done. I think we've been able to pass strong ethics standards. We have more to do, but for the first time ever, there's limits on campaign finance that will take effect in Illinois. We've strengthened the Freedom of Information Act. Your paper is a strong advocate of that. We've strengthened the state procurement law, the laws involving ethics of state employees, the public pension fund trustees where problems existed. We've reformed that. A variety of other ethics reforms. And I think sometimes in this campaign there are those against me who diminish that. If you were here 2 years ago and you made a list of everything we have done and said, well, this is what will get done in the next 24 months, it would be a pretty impressive list. And I think I deserve credit for that. I run an honest government, honest people, make sure that we do things right. And I think it's important to have a governor who has no conflicts of interest. I don't. And my opponent I'm running against has some serious conflicts of interest that he's never answered. And I think this is a very serious issue in our campaign. 12 weeks or 12 days to go. If you have a real estate business, you've had it a while, you use your button in the legislative chamber to vote 3 times on bills that affect directly your financial interests, your land interests, that's a serious conflict of interest. And I think it's important that this business that still exists and apparently is in precarious position, and he took a loan out the other day that involves an entity that made the loan. This campaign contributed to him, but it's also regulated by the state. So I think all these questions need to be dealt with before the election. And it came out last night. He said there was no conflict of interest. Well, the Chicago Tribune, 3 times he voted. It was the front page of the paper. They did the research, and I think anybody looking at it would do the research, would conclude that there was a flagrant conflict of interest. So it's important not to have a governor who gets in this kind of hot water. And I believe that we've had enough experience with that in the last 10 years. We're not going to have good jobs in a good state if we don't have a governor who puts the people's business first at all time and doesn't have any conflicts. So I think those are some of the issues that have come up in the election, just in terms of the budget. It's never easy when you inherit a huge deficit, as I did. I have reduced the budget, the General Revenue Fund, from $28 billion to $25 billion. That's unheard of in Illinois. It's more than any governor has ever reduced the General Revenue Fund. It's very hard. It's very difficult to make decisions saying some programs can't go on or some have much less money this year than last year. But we have done that. We have enacted the most far-reaching public pension fund reform in the history of the United States. No state in the union has ever done what we did this year. That's not me talking. That's the Wall Street Journal, which is hardly my #1 supporter. That's George Will saying that Illinois did this. And again, I don't think we get proper credit for enacting something that will save $220 billion over the next generation in public pension fund costs. I've been pilloried by a number of those who were opposed to that, but you have to have a governor who gets in the arena and does hard things, and not somebody who's just pie in the sky with a lot of rhetoric, no accomplishments. You got to have a governor who's able to take on tough challenges. And in conclusion, I believe we need revenue in our state after cutting costs by $3 billion, after getting a lot of federal money. And I'm willing to go to Washington at any time to do so. My opponent says I should have not even gone to get this summer $1 billion, about $450 million for our education, about $550 million or so for health care. I got that from Washington. I worked with other governors. Federal funds are important. Cutting costs are important. Reforming the way state government does business, that's important. But the bottom line, when all is said and done, you got to have a governor who's honest enough before an election, as I have been, to tell the people that we need to invest, especially in our education. And I proposed a surcharge for education on our income tax. I want to live up to what was passed 40 years ago in a referendum, first time I got a chance to vote, which was the Illinois Constitution of 1970. And it says right in the words there, the state has primary responsibility for funding schools. And our state has, over the last 40 years, failed to live up to that. In 1976, they were pretty close, 48%, way lower now. I think using the income tax to invest in education and reduce property taxes. We should not rely on property taxes to fund the most important part of 21st century life, education. Jobs equal education. But we have to understand that if we're going to be a successful state. I'm running against someone who wants to cut the education budget of Illinois by $1.26 billion. That will fire a lot of teachers, about 20,000. It's going to overcrowd classrooms. It's going to cut scholarships by huge amounts of students going to college in the MAP grad program. It's going to reduce support for community colleges that are the heart and soul of a nimble economy. We have 1 million students in community college in Illinois, 1 million in 48 community colleges, and I want to invest in that, not take money away from that. And I think that's really some of the sharp differences in this campaign.